Hello everyone, welcome to Storypedia. My name is Taiwo Omole. Many people like to call me T-Spice, so whatever you like is fine by me. Today we're going to be looking at conflict in drama. Welcome on board. So, what is conflict? Conflict is any obstacle that keeps a character in a story from achieving his or her desired goals. Without conflict in drama, the story falls flat. It becomes lifeless and very uninteresting. Conflict is a tool used in drama to reveal a character, to reveal his motivations, his actions, and development as a hero as he seeks to resolve obstacles. Now, let me just chip in here that obstacles is another term for conflict. What are the types of conflict we have in drama? There are actually two main types of conflicts in drama for the protagonist in every story. You have the inner conflict and you have the external conflict. And it's very important to understand this when crafting your stories because that's what makes your character interesting and three-dimensional in a sense. Internal conflict is an emotional, mental, or psychological obstacle that every character faces. And it's natural because we're all like that as human beings. And so it's very interesting for an audience to sit down and try to figure out what inner conflict a given character has to tackle. Internal conflict stems from the inner world of the protagonist of the character. It occurs as a result of a core wound or hurt, which is kept hidden from other people by the protagonist. For example, a character's goal may be to win the heart of the woman he loves. However, he may struggle with his pursuit because his mother abandoned him as a child, therefore leading to abandonment issues, and it makes him toy with the notions of rejection and unworthiness. And this conflict right here gets in the way of his dream to pursue his lady love. And so you see that he wants to pursue this person, but he's thinking to himself, am I really worthy? If my own birth mother could abandon and reject me, maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm not worth loving. Maybe my eyes are really too big. And these things are actually what we call the core wound. It's something the character keeps hidden. It's something that the character is buried deep within. There may be a facade on the outside that, the character looks confident and sexy, but they may be compensating. The confidence and the sex appeal and all of that may be a way of compensating for that notion of being unworthy, of being, rejected and abandoned. So anyway, these feelings and notions of unworthiness is a conflict that stops our protagonist from courting his lady love or asking her on a date. So he has to first of all deal with his inner conflict before he can achieve his goal of getting love in his life. Inner conflict can manifest itself as fear of rejection, addiction, low self-esteem, different forms of phobias, abandonment issues, unforgiveness, not letting go of the past, shame, guilt, perceived weaknesses, body hatred, psychopathy. These things really make up a character. The inner conflict is such an important journey of the character. So we start out with a character who is dealing with the notions of rejection, but his story arc, at the end of the story, he should make peace with himself and come to love himself. And that's what we call a character's inner journey, a hero's inner journey. That'll be a class for another day, talking about the inner journey of the hero and the outer journey of the hero. It should be noted that every protagonist in any story form, whether it's a movie, a stage, novel, poetry, audio plays, whatever it is, every character has an inner conflict, which is very much different from an external conflict, which can be seen by the audience and other characters in the story. So like I said, it's only the character who knows what he's dealing with. Many times the audience tries to figure out, what the conflict is, what is this character truly dealing with, but it's not really, shown. Unlike external conflict, which is embedded in the plot of the story. So, what is external conflict? External conflict is usually entrenched in the plot of the story. So any obstacle that gets in the way of the protagonist, either physically, supernaturally, or scientifically, or even in the form of another character, is a conflict. External conflict sets a character against something or someone that is beyond their control. Outside forces stand in the way of a character's objectives and creates tension as the character tries to reach their goals. A character becomes boring, uninspiring, not worth knowing, liking, loving, or even rooting for if there's no conflict in his or a story or his or a journey. In reality, in true, real reality, we all face conflict in one form or the other. We face conflict from opposing forces in our journeys. Therefore, in drama, conflict from an opposing force is a natural element that drives the emotional journey and development of our protagonist. There's one thing I need to clarify. With the external conflict, it's something that the protagonist can see, something that the audience can see. It's embedded in the plot of the film. It carries the movie forward. Unlike internal conflict, which is really personal to our character and his own inner world. There are 6 major types of external conflict in drama. The first one is man versus man. Some people call it character versus character. It is the protagonist versus the antagonist, the good guy versus the bad guy, the hero versus the villain. The second is man versus nature. We also have man versus technology and science, man versus supernatural and God, man versus fate or destiny, and lastly, man versus society. Let's take a look at man versus man. The obstacle or conflict in the form of another character is usually called a villain, an antagonist, the bad guy, the rival. This person is usually depicted as being stronger and has a special advantage over the main character. He has made it his own goal in life to stop the protagonist from achieving his objectives. The next is man versus nature. Nature can become an opposing force for the protagonist if it prevents the character from achieving his goals. Nature can be depicted as vicious animals such as invasion of spiders, locusts, flesh-eating animals, sharks. I'm reminded of movies like Eight-Legged Freaks and Jaws. We also have weather conditions like blizzards, tsunamis, hurricanes, volcano eruptions, storms, icebergs, earthquakes, climate changes, and environmental degradation. Titanic is another film where you have a conflict of man versus nature. The next one is man versus technology or science. It is safe to assume that movie lovers at some point have seen a film where technology and science work adversely against the protagonist. Scenarios such as viruses turning humans into zombies or forcing everyone to be quarantined. A movie that comes to mind would be Contagion. In other cases, it could be a glitch in technology causing our main character to lose his identity or be implicated in a conspiracy. At this point, I'm reminded of a movie with Sandra Bullock called The Net, where she completely loses her identity to cyber conspiracy and all of that. Another example would be artificial intelligence, robots presented as opposing forces to the protagonist. This type of conflict is the one where the character has to overcome and overpower technology and science in order to achieve his goal. And with this one, I'm reminded of a film with Will Smith in there, I, Robot, yes, where, robots are programmed against the protagonist and to frustrate his every effort to reach his desired goal. The next one is man versus supernatural activities of God. Stories and folk tales about witches, vampires, mythical gods, angels and demons as a formidable opposing force abound. Sometimes the obstacle in the way of the main character, which creates so much conflict on his journey, may be extraterrestrial forces who use magical and supernatural powers against him or her. Protagonist is so frustrated as his efforts in reaching his objectives are always constantly thwarted by these forces. And we have man versus faith or destiny. It can be a nightmare of an obstacle when a character's faith is his opposing force. Conflict can be presented when the protagonist is given a short time to live by some predestined fate or curse. How does the character go about winning more time to live? Think about movies like Sleeping Beauty and Snow White. Their fates of falling into a deep, never-ending sleep were predetermined at the actualization of certain events. Now, if Snow White eats that apple, and if Princess Aurora pricks her finger on the spindle wheel, they are absolutely doomed to faith. And then the very last one is man versus society. Conflict may also present itself in the form of society at large. A protagonist may find himself fighting a system of ideas, policies, beliefs, and even the government. It can be a very dangerous conflict when a man takes a stand against established authorities and the powers that be in order to achieve his goals. The character may take up courses against racism in the system, bigotry, or sexual abuse and violence against the minority group. For example, corruption among the legal or police system, abortion rights, abolishment of supernatural and superstitious beliefs, and gay rights. And this brings us to the end of today's tutorial. But guess what? It's not over, because next week we're going to be delving and diving deeper and further into conflict in dramas using your favorite movies, my favorite movies, as case studies. So if you have a favorite movie that you'd like us to dissect and pick out the conflict in there, please comment on the comment sections below and let me know which one you would like us to take on first. Remember that it's all about making sure that we understand exactly what makes a film interesting, what makes any story, not just even a movie, a book, a drama, a play, what makes it interesting. We're going to try to identify what the inner conflict of our protagonist is, what is that issue that he's dealing with or tackling, and I'm going to do the same thing with the external conflicts as well. So join us next week. Thank you very much for sticking with me and coming on board this tutorial. I had so much fun putting it together for you. I hope you had so much fun listening as well. It was a wonderful time. Thank you very much for coming on board. So I'll see you same time next week. Take care of yourself, and bye bye.